Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we have another great Strand Hunter build that's using Whirl and Maelstrom aspect once more, but this time we're going Mothkeepers crazy with the setup we have in mind. Tell me, are you a fan of Pokemon like me? If so, then you're going to enjoy this slightly crazier version of Pokemon I have for show, as we'll be using moths, swirling balls of death, and little green threadlings to deal with whoever comes our way. And the crazy thing about the build is that you get some crazy effects from what we have in stock, which includes creating multiple tangles, get 3 damage reduction just from activating them, have 3 grenades that can be spammed with timed right, and can blind, sever, and weaken targets all in one. It's a very silly to use build, but great when you just want your little buddies to do the ad clearing just for you. So here's how it's laid out. Stormy exotic armor, Mothkeepers Wrap, with this exotic effect, Winged Eclipse, it states, your grenades become a cage of loyal moths that release on impact and fly towards the nearest target or ally. If they reach a target, they detonate in a blinding explosion. If they reach an ally, the moths grant you ally a void overshield, you included. Combining this with Barrow dyad is going to provide quite a bit of experimental fun towards the build, as the moths being used will stun enemies, which will allow Barrow dyad to build up his damage meter and unleash the exotic effect in full. Now this can opt into whatever sort of exotic you want, like Foe Tracer for example, but for this here, we want to make sure our exotic primary is getting his full benefits going. Considering that it will be creating tangles and keeping the rest of the build going, if we combine our exotic armor with Widow's Silk and Feather Generation together, we can get 3 grenades at once, while also having a very fast cooldown in the process, something that goes really well for this sort of build. Our exotic weapon is the Barrow dyad, with this exotic effect, Panic Response and Taken Divergent, which states, this weapon generates blight as it deals damage. While not firing, blight depletes and the magazine is gradually refilled. Reload the weapon to convert stored blight into blight seekers. This weapon resonates with your choices. One of the new strand exotics to be added to the game, the following has seen a lot of positive waves being made for it when combined with certain exotics in hand. A Foe Tracer with the exotic would have been perfect if we were to focus on it purely on the weapon in hand, but I have decided to make our weapon have a different role in game. It will be used for creating tangles in hand, but it will also be used for reaching max damage stacks it has through the support of Mothkeepers. By us stunning targets, we can build up our damage stacks before reloading, to which, once done, we can unleash a torrent of additional damage quickly, which will also affect Feather Generation grenade recharge rates. With the 3 in hand, we can dish out some high damage and a lot of moths in the making. For aspects and fragments, we have the following. Widow's Silk, where you are given an additional grenade type. Whirling Maelstrom, where destroying a tangle will weave a violent, writhing mass of strand fibers that seek out targets, damages them, and emitting and unraveling when defeated. A Feather Rebuff allows strand weapons a chance to create threadlings on kills. A Feather Transmutation, while having Woven Mail, weapon finder blows create tangles. A Feather Warding, where picking up all power grants Woven Mail. And Feather Generation, where dealing damage generates grenade energy. The build will be leaning into the high usage of our grenades, which will be supporting what our tangles will be doing while out on the field. Personally, I like to keep a simple combo going, which will grant me a steady supply of ability energy flow when switching from one thing to another. A Feathered Spike will see usage here for kickstart most fights, as we want to set a target to start with and then follow up with our grenades which will stun or kill them. If stunned, we can use Barrow dyad to come in and deal unraveling damage when ramped up, or if they get killed, we can take the tangle we create and let loose. This will be the combo we follow, but it will change up here and there depending on the situation. A Feather Transmutation and Warding is going to allow us to get extra damage reduction when active, while also making it easier to create tangles in hand. The damage reduction being created will be linked to the seasonal mod to shreds, so we can get a nice and easy way to monitor our incoming damage when playing on whatever ranges we are in. The creation of tangles is going to affect seasonal mods such as Unraveling Orbs, Vile Weave, and Disruptor Spike to make it so that our tangles will be consistently debuffing targets while also providing them buffs when activated at the right time. Now we do also have Feather Rebuff and Horde Shuttle on hand, which will allow us to create threadlings via our strand weapons alone. This is something worth adding, as having many ways to deal with multiple enemies at once is going to make our lives so much more smoother from operation to operation. In many ways, it's going to feel like Pokemon with how much things will be launching at enemies across the map. Lastly, we then have Feather Generation, which I recommend you keep, as this will allow you to garner grenade energy faster than compared to having Demolition's perk. Although, depending on what you desire, either Generations or Rebirth could be replaced with Feather Evolution instead, since we do have the Horde Shuttle mod on hand already. If you want to lean more into using friendlies in the build, then the following is a great alternative to replace whatever fragment you don't personally want. For the mods and stats, we have Resilience at tier 10 for a 30% damage reduction. Along with the base stats, we have kept Feather Warding and to Shred Seasonal mod, which will grant us Woeful Mail. We also have a weapon that can produce overshields and kill, which will help us out big time when we need that extra level protection urgently. Now, like always, I would advise you to also add the Elemental Resistance mod of your choosing for further safekeeping, as this will be enough to survive lethal hits in most encounters. A Discipline, we have Arrow at tier 10 as well for a 37-second cooldown via Shackle Grenades and Mothkeepers. The grenades won't matter too much here, as they will ultimately be switched out for the Mothkeepers Moth Grenades at the end. At 37 seconds, this will allow us to use our grenades at a much higher rate compared to the other grenades we have available in game. On top of that, we also have Widow Silk and Feather Generation, which will allow us to garner grenade energy back faster, while at the same time allow us to hold 3 grenades all at once, like shown in gameplay. With this, you'll be throwing grenades every 10 to 15 seconds when done right, and they can get very messy in the process. So with the stats coverage done, let's break down the mods we are using from head all the way to the class bond. Harmonic Cypher, where getting a match weapon kill will grant you an orb of power. Ashes Assets, where netting a grenade kill will grant you super energy. Heavy Ammo, Reserves and Scoundrel mods for a heavy weapon. Impact Induction ×2 for a 17% grenade ability regen. Momentum Transfer ×1 for a 12% melee ability regen. Charged Up for a +1 and Charged by Light. Elemental Charge, where clicking an elemental pickup of your class type will generate a Charge by Light. A Strand Surge mod ×1 for a 10% strand weapon buff. Time Dilation, where your decay and armor charge rate is extended. A Powerful Attraction, where casting your class ability will collect certain pickups within a 12.5 meters range. And Bomber, where using your class ability near targets will grant you an extra 12% grenade ability regen. So as we covered our main exotic primary earlier, it's time we go over the additional weapons applied to the build. What are shown are all recommendations, so please keep this in mind. For secondary, we have the Lotus Eater, with Repulsor Brace and Destabilizing Rounds. The following is a great combo to generally have for any void weapon on hand, as this will become pretty useful when dealing with crowded enemies or genuinely need a quick way to protect yourself. We already have damage reduction being provided from Woeful Mail effect built into the build, but having an extra way of protection will help us when needed. Having volatile rounds now is a no-brainer, since this is a nice damage boost on hand, especially when used against mages, ultras and champions on hand. Now I would say having a fusion rifle is probably better to pick, as we can combine the Parkour Deconstruction mod, but this will mean you won't be able to break barrier shields unless you have, say, unraveling rounds available, or a teammate to support you. So this would change on difficulties of the encounter and who exactly we are facing. For heavy, we have the Scintillation with Envious Assassin and Firing Line. Because we lack long range capabilities, this will fill in the gap with allowing us to snipe bosses and mini bosses at safe distances. The build can do pretty well up close and personal, but we do need something long range as well, which I believe the linear fusion will fill that gap in, partially. Having increased damage while near team members, but also having increased base ammo will make sure that when taking on any sort of danger, we can maintain a continuous source of DPS with fair ease. However, a machine gun is also a good alternative to keep in mind. The ability of having 3 moth grenades on hand that can be spammed willy-nilly, and also combined with Whirling Maelstrom for even more chaos, is definitely a huge reason why this build is worth investing in. I have had a ton of fun with the setup, as it's purely abilities focused once you get the gears of it going. And at the same time, we can get the general debuffs and buffs that come along with the seasonal mods to create an epic build worth your time and slots. At first, I was going to make this build focus purely on Barrow dyad and its effect, but I thought it wouldn't be enough to want to use the build even more. So I expanded this role further to allow us to create tangles, and then use this near infinite regen ammo to increase our damage, and also generate a grenade energy as well as we play along. This has provided quite a shock for me, as it works out really well with how fast we can generate our grenades back over time. Just like our last build, we will use what we have in hand to create Whirling Maelstroms once active, but now we'll pair this up with the Mothkeepers to apply additional damage, blind, and also grant overshields for me and allies. This will make taking out targets fairly easier once stunned, And if done successfully, we can also get damage reduction, thread lanes, and weaken targets through Sever. You can even see how chaotic it gets when protecting an area on my own, as just one grenade is needed to stun enemies, and for me to come in and clear them out with ease. I really do like this build quite a lot compared to the other builds we have used, and it's quite strange it's taking me so long to find it out. Now there is only one caveat with the build though, which is it only excels in close range fighting. While this is good for most maps and activities, this won't be too useful for most higher endgame content that have enemies that consistently use their range to get you. Our secondary choice can help us with dealing with them, which goes the same for our heavy, but they do have limited ammo and are more designed for their own limited roles. Nonetheless, the build is fantastic either way, as long as you are able to close the gap and start your rampage. Once this is in full swing, you can solo clear most content without the enemies even fighting back, if you play it smart. So there we have it. I hope you all enjoyed the build breakdown. If you have any thoughts on the content shared, then please leave a like, a comment and sub while you're here. I will leave a dim link for the build below, and if you want more stuff like this, then I have playlists available covering all types of builds you desire. It was great sharing today's video with you all, and I hope to see you again soon.